Florida, the Coast Guard, equipped with 2 Air Force helicopters, continue to search Sunday for a fishing boat carrying a pair of NFL players.
The top story tonight, the continuing desperate efforts to save lives.
We begin with the search that continues.
The boat and one of the 4 men on it that disappeared in the Gulf of Mexico this weekend has been found, and that man is alive.
On Monday, 24-year-old Nick Schuyler catapulted into the national spotlight with this image, the lone survivor of a tragic accident at sea, clinging to the propeller of an overturned boat. To most of America, Schuyler's survival of 2 days and 2 nights, 38 miles from shore, was a miracle. But to those who know him, it was less surreal.
He's a very tough guy. If there was a glimpse of hope of surviving, he would have grabbed it. He's just that type of guy.
Schuyler's former teammate, University of South Florida defensive tackle Richard Kleebert, says his wife was the first to tell him that Schuyler and 3 others were reported missing.
The first thing I told her, I said, if they find one person, trust me, they're going to find Nick Schuyler. If there's any way to survive, they're going to find Nick, because he's just not going to give up.
Schuyler has been a personal trainer at a Tampa area gym for the last 2 years. He's done some modeling, but friends say his true passion is sports. A 3-year varsity basketball player in high school, he loves watching Cavaliers games in his LeBron James jersey, working out, jet skiing, fishing, and playing football. The self-discipline he used in training to make South Florida's football team in 2006 as a walk-on impressed teammates.
He trained to try to come on the team for months in advance by himself. He showed me the street that he lived on, about 3 miles from here. He had marked off 20 yards, 40 yards, 60 yards, 80 yards, so he could do sprints and get himself in shape. Schuyler
was the personal trainer for 2 of the men on the boat that day, NFL players Marquise Cooper and Corey Smith. Also on board was Schuyler's best friend, former South Florida teammate Will Blakely.
Him and Will are always real close. I'd say probably 70% of the time that I went over to Nick's house, Will was there. Like every weekend, if I'd go out with them, Will was there too.
When word of Schuyler's lone rescue became public, friends like Scott Miller, who knew Schuyler and Blakely had been out fishing together that day, found themselves torn in their reaction to the news.
They said they found one person on the boat, and after they said it was Nick, I was absolutely ecstatic and thrilled that he made it, and absolutely devastated that Will wasn't on that boat.
Schuyler hasn't spoken publicly, but he has been sharing some details of his ordeal with close friends and family. Shortly after his rescue, Schuyler told his mother, Marcia, how he used her as motivation to survive.
I went and saw him first, and he told me, Mom, I kept saying you're not going to go to my funeral. He said that's what kept him hanging on.
But surviving for Schuyler meant facing another painful experience, having to explain over the phone to Blakely's parents what happened to their son in his final hours.
When Nick was describing this to me, he was very upset, and I said, no, Nick, we really have to know this. As painful as it is, we just have to know about the last 24 hours.
Schuyler said that none of the 4 men on board were wearing life jackets when waves flipped the boat and dumped them into the Gulf, sending Blakely into action.
The boat capsized. He said that Will took it upon himself to go under the boat and get the jackets out. Said there was 3 jackets and a throw cushion, and Will took the throw cushion and gave everybody else the jackets and got some sweaters out and everything they needed. And one by one, they just started falling apart. After the 2, Marquise and Corey, dropped off, that was just him and Will, and they were just hanging on to each other and just motivating each other.
Schuyler also said that during their first night at sea, as he and Blakely clung to the overturned boat, a spotlight from a rescue helicopter shone down on them, but they weren't spotted. The boat's white hull was difficult to distinguish from the white caps of the stormy seas below. Their hopes diminished as conditions continued to deteriorate.
The waves were crashing down on every time a wave would hit. They'd lose grip of the boat and they'd have to swim back to the boat. So it's not like they were just out there.
Will finally got delirious and didn't have the strength to go on, not go on, but he was in the water and he couldn't climb back on the boat. Nick tried to pull him back on the boat. Nick tried to give him CPR.
Will had to let go, and Nick was going in and out of consciousness, so he said he was going down and waking back up, and they said he woke up and Will just wasn't there.
And Nick told me that that if Will had not been on the boat, that he would have died. That Nick himself would have died. And I'm sure that if Will had survived, Will would have said the same thing about Nick.
Doctors say Schuyler does not show any signs of post-traumatic stress, but caution that the impact of his experience hasn't hit him yet.
I can't imagine what he's going through mentally right now. I mean, he's got to explain to 3 families why he made it and they didn't.
He survived the worst thing in the world. You know, I'm sure he's thinking, how am I going to face those parents? How am I going to face those people? When he talks with me, I'm going to congratulate him for heroics of staying alive.